play right, cause they can't miss. All about the game, that's a cold switch. Serving up the truth, call it ruthless. Tune in and get your fix from Blake and Vish Sports.
What are your AFC playoff predictions?
Yeah, so I'm just going to go from 1 to 7. I think for me, at least in the AFC, it's very, very top heavy. There's the tier 1 has 3 teams in it, and those are my first 3 seeds. So number 1, I had Chiefs. 2, I had Bills. 3, I had Browns. But I think all those teams are going to win 13 games at least. And then 4th, I had Colts. 5th, I had Dolphins. 6, I had Ravens. And 7, I had Patriots. The 5 through 7 are kind of, I don't know about the actual order, but those are just kind of my teams that I have in there. But yeah, what did you have, Vish, and what did we disagree on? Because I'm sure there was disagreement here.
Yeah, so the AFC to me was really, really tough because I thought there were only like 9 playoff teams in the NFC. So picking 7 out of 9 wasn't that difficult, 9 or 10. I thought there was about 12 teams, 13 teams in the AFC that I could have convinced myself if these things go right, they could make the playoffs. And then you look at the schedules for these teams and you're like, well, I don't know. Like, because all of these schedules actually lined up very similarly where I felt, ooh, this is a rough stretch. Ooh, this is kind of easier. I just wasn't sure. I'm with you. I think the AFC has a clear tier 1 of teams, and I think those are 3 of the 4 best teams in the NFL, just roster top to bottom and team-wise. And that's the my first seed team, which I actually went with the Cleveland Browns. A little bit bold. They have a little tougher schedule. I just think top to bottom, that roster, their ability to run the football, how good Baker Mayfield looked in preseason, by the way. Baker Mayfield looked unbelievable. And so I think they'll be the first seed. I got the Bills second. Their roster is stacked. I think they got a little better actually this year around Josh Allen. I think their receivers are a little deeper. I think their defensive line is better. They obviously got a great safety tandem. They got good linebackers. They got a good pass blocking offensive line. I got them second. Chiefs third. You know, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, they're not going anywhere. I think they'll be a little bit worse this year because I think there's a little more questions on the roster top to bottom. I don't think they have good receivers or receiving options on their team outside of Hill and Kelsey. I think they're bereft of talent. I think their offensive line is a weird mix because even though it is a really good offensive line, to me, guys like Joe Thuney are excellent run blockers, and the Chiefs are going to look to drop back. So I'm going to be interested to see if they run the football more this season because they do have an offensive line that's built to run the football. And then I have questions on their defense a little bit more, honestly. I think their defensive line depth isn't where it's been the last couple of years. Obviously, they've always had issues at linebacker. So overall, that's why I think I have the Chiefs a tad bit lower than where they've been. Number 4, I got the Titans. We'll talk a little bit more. I know you didn't have the Titans in your thing, so that'll definitely be one of the teams we debate. And then 5, 6, 7 for me is Baltimore, New England, and I went with a little bit of a shocker. I went with Denver.
Oh, okay, Denver. That's a good one. I'm with you. You said there's like probably 12, 13 teams. I would have to agree with you on there. There's probably only like 2 teams that I can rest assured say there is 0 chance they're making the playoffs, and that's the Texans and the probably the Jaguars and Jets. Yeah,
those 3.
Those 3 teams, like I see virtually no path to the playoff for them, just because they're, rookie quarterbacks for 2 of them, and they're still just like younger rosters for the most part. And then the Texans, that just doesn't need explaining why they're there. But every other team, like I really see why that you could have them in the playoffs.
Even the Raiders, I don't think like it's far off because of how good Derek Carr has played the last couple of years and the fact that they've had a very good offense the last couple of years. If they fix a couple of things on defense, which they're probably not going to fix, and they're definitely not as talented, like they're probably the 4th team after those 3. But I could make a case where if these things go right, schedule breaks right, a couple of teams have massive injuries, I could make a case for them. Like I left out like a Miami, right? And Miami's stacked top to bottom. It's tough to leave them out because I think they'll be a winning football team. I left out Indianapolis, stacked top to bottom. Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger aren't going to have a losing season. I just don't think they're going to make the playoffs. Like you can just keep going down the list. There's just way too much talent in the AFC.
No, there really is. But I think we should get into some of the disagreements that we had. And I'd say the first one was our top 3. The top 3 AFC teams. which is I had the Chiefs at 1, you had them at 3. We both had Bills at 2. I had Browns at 3. You had Browns at 1. So I guess we can go Chiefs. So you have them 3rd. So I guess your main thing was they're deprived of offensive talent a little bit besides Hill and Kelsey. And then their defense still has questions too. And then I guess kind of the O-line, but seeing how that works. But I'm here to tell you why you are wrong, Vish. So last year, 14-2, made Super Bowl, kind of got embarrassed. The offense did not play well. The defense got cooked by, well, just an offense that was completely overpowering to them. But this offseason, I think they had one of the most underrated just changes overall, and that's the offensive line. You kind of brought it up earlier. Getting Joe Tooney, Orlando Brown, Humphrey. They're getting they lost Schwartz, but just overall, I think those 3 additions alone are amazing, and it should completely help having what they had at the end of the year with Mike Remmers starting as their left tackle in the Super Bowl. And then you mentioned the receivers outside of Hill and Kelsey. Wasn't that the same thing last year, though? Like, that really hasn't changed too much. And if one of them gets injured, yeah, it happens. But one of the 2 of them gets injured, then they're really screwed. But I think having both of them there, they should be fine. And then I'd imagine Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to improve this year and be healthier. And I think he's really, really talented. So for that reason, I still think their offense will be a top 3 offense. They still have Mahomes. They still have Andy Reid. The defense does leave some concerns, but their defense wasn't that great last year anyway, and I don't think it's had a massive, massive downfall. So I still am going with the Chiefs as my number 1 team.
So I actually agree with a lot of those points, and that's why I still think the Chiefs are going to be a really good team. Like, having them 3rd sounds worse. I think the bigger thing is you did mention that they did have some of these issues last year. I don't think it was as big. I really look at the receivers, and I feel like there's nothing there besides Hill and Kelsey. I really do. I thought, I look at their running backs. I think Edwards-Helaire will be better. I agree with that. But again, I just look top to bottom, and I like their offensive line. Huge improvement. It was awesome. Like, they got 2 rookies that are looking good in their offensive line too, and Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, the right guard. So, like, things are definitely looking positive for the Chiefs. My biggest thing is you mentioned these issues they had last year, and I think I don't know if they're a better team than at this point last year, but they're definitely still a top-notch roster. It's just that I feel like Cleveland got
made a
better.
lot of
I think they'll just be a better football team. I mean, you get a second-year Jedrick Wills. I think that'll help. I still think Odell Beckham coming back is a positive for them. Second-year Harrison Bryant. Their secondary got significantly better. John Johnson was one of the best acquisitions of this entire free agency. To me, he's a top 5 safety in football, and the things he can do is going to make that defense better. And I know you don't like him, but I think Jadeveon Clowney, and obviously Jadeveon Clowney, if he plays, is a question mark, and his health is a question mark. Yeah,
I do.
When he plays next to Myles Garrett, that's a huge upgrade for them across the defensive line compared to who was playing next to Myles Garrett last year. So I look at that, and then to me, Buffalo did get a little bit better with the acquisition of Emmanuel Sanders, guys like Starlo Tulele coming back. I look at the fact that they were able to bring back a Matt Milano. To me, Buffalo just got a little bit better on the whole than they were last year. And I look at Buffalo and Cleveland as 2 teams that are maybe ascending. Like, last year was their first year of ascending, and this year they're going to hit their peak. And I look at the Chiefs as a team that hit their peak that's kind of stagnating so that they can recharge this and then hit another peak with Mahomes. It's going to come again soon. They're going to have another great roster around Mahomes. I just think this is the one year that maybe they take a little bit of a step back because of all the success they've had the last 3.
Interesting. Yeah, well, that was actually something that I thought of too with the Browns and the Bills. Like, that was kind of the first year of, really good relevancy with their core and, actually making the playoffs and getting a taste of that. Because the Chiefs, since they got Andy Reid, they've just been making the playoffs year after year. But with Mahomes, it's only been since 2018, so only 3 seasons. But still, they had some struggles in 2018, and then 2019 and 20, they obviously made the Super Bowl twice. So I still put them up there above these teams, but I would not be surprised if the Chiefs don't make it to the Super Bowl because of these 2 teams. And I think the Bills are the team that will eventually get there, but we can discuss that later. But yeah, the Bills and the Browns upgrading as much as they did, while also kind of having that young roster with the young quarterback and them even getting better, which is crazy to think about because Josh Allen looked great last year, and then obviously Baker had another standout season, and then year 2 with Stefanski should help as well. So yeah, I could honestly see any of these 3 teams being first or third. So we will see what happens.
Yeah, and we got to go through at least our 4 through